and say good morning to everybody, seeing as it's now 7:15 here in very chilly New Zealand. 8th of July, Monday. We've got 10 knots of southwest wind at Gulf Harbour Radio, 13 degrees, 1014.7. And I tell you what, it was a damn sight colder yesterday. We head off to do our weekly shoot on Sundays, and my God, it was like shooting in an icebox. It was single digits, and it was cold. So that's my excuse for a poor result anyway, but it was very, very cold. Blue sky and sunshine yesterday. It was an absolutely glorious day, and driving into Auckland, it was just crystal clear. Just one of those beautiful mornings. It was full tide and crystal clear, but boy, was it cold. Anyway, those of you who are further north won't be complaining about the cold. I am going to ask for a couple of boats to be called shortly, because we have had 4 boats take off from New Zealand, and we are trying to find out where they are, because a couple of them are not yet in our well, they're not at 30 degrees, and that's usually where we start to hear boats. So I'm going to hand it over to you, Andrew. Hopefully I will copy you. If you could call Manawai and Blue Moon, or in fact anyone you're not copying, well, not able to be heard by Gulf Harbour Radio, and then bring it back to me, please, Andrew. Go ahead. Oh, pretty good. Go ahead. Okay, this is I can relay for Radio. Good copy, Manawai. Yeah, so let's have your position. In the effort, calm, 70%. What's your boat speed again? It's from this one. Okay, I'll leave that for you. Manawai is 32 degrees at 07 minutes south, 179 degrees 40 minutes 000 magnetic, 36.0 knots. And the wind westerly of 15 to 20 knots, all on all of that. Correct out. Any report for them for tomorrow?
No, I haven't.
Thank you very much. All copied from you, so I won't repeat it. So Manawai is doing really well, 6 knots there on course. So thank you for that, and I presume you did not hear from Blue Moon. Did you hear anybody else respond? Yeah, I've got Shadu. Good morning, Jonathan, and thank you for that, Andrew. You're booming in, so any boat would have heard you. Shanu, go ahead. Okay, southeast 10 to 15, 100% cloud cover 1011. I heard Fortuna, was that correct? Oh, okay. Didn't realise you were going there, so that's interesting.
Is he in Fortuna?
No, he's 65 miles to go, so that was just David asking. I'm sure a couple of other boats who are interested would be, it looks as if it's more sporty than that, so that's interesting. Only 10 to 15 knots from the southeast. All right, thank you for that. It's always good to have reports from those at sea. So I'll just cover a bit of news from what's been happening around the world over the weekend. Of course, the first bit of news was the earthquakes in California. They started with a 6.5 on, actually it was July 4th there, it was Friday here, but then they got a 7.1 out in the Mojave Desert, so no deaths or major damage, but certainly they are the biggest earthquakes in 20 years. And of course, it's meant all the doom and gloomers are telling them that it's way late for a very big one. More news on that as it happens. All right. What have we got next? Well, this is, I should tell you this because those boats that are coming to New Zealand, if you are looking to come to the Big Smoke Auckland, this will be the last year for a while to do that. Because when the America's Cup is on, and this will be, we're talking about the period October 2020 to March, the end of March 2021, you will absolutely not be able to get any berth in the Auckland area. The fee is going to be for just a normal size boat about $21,000 a month. If you are a 40-metre super yacht, it will be closer to $37,000 plus GST plus $1,000 a day for power and water. Now, it's going to affect other marinas. Now, we're not talking about this coming summer. We're talking about the next one. So, Whangarei Marina has already had inquiries from the Auckland berth holders because, of course, they are getting chucked out so that their berth can be used for a higher income boat. But Whangarei doesn't allocate further than one summer ahead. So if you're planning on arriving in New Zealand this year and going to be coming back the following year, when you get here, you will need to book in for the following year. It's going to be, there will be pressure on berths if that's what you want to do. A lot of people don't actually cruise around, which is a shame. They put the boat here, have work done on it and head off home. But if you are going to want a berth for a couple of years, then you really do need, when you get here this year, to book ahead. Berths in Auckland will be available $25 per metre per day. Now, evidently, that is a lot cheaper than it was in Bermuda and Valencia, where the fees were about 3 times that. So it still seems incredibly expensive. All right. Going over to the USA now, and this made me think of going to the Galapagos. It is open season on green iguanas in South Florida. They are now absolute pests, evidently. There's so many of them. And so they have announced that you can kill them on your property, as well as on 22 public areas or parks throughout South Florida. They don't say how you can kill them, because they are pretty thick-skinned, aren't they? Maybe we should take over our 22s. Anyway, they're not aggressive, they're not dangerous to humans, but evidently they do damage walls and paths and foliage, and they dig tunnels and do all those sorts of things that Floridians don't like. All right, now you guys out there probably all think you're very fit because you're snorkeling and diving and kiting and doing all that sort of thing. But would you pass the New Zealand Police fitness test? Now, the reason this has come up is that some of the police are thinking that it's too tough. But it's evidently a very good test. Sorry, I'm still spluttering here. It's a 400-metre course. You have to push a car trailer 10 metres, carry a car wheel assembly. That's just the whole wheel and the bit. Okay, 10 metres. Run 200 metres. Walk a 5-metre right-angled beam. You have to do a long jump of 1.8 metres. Run around cones and over hurdles for 30 metres. Climb through a window 1 metre off the ground. Climb over a solid 1.8 metre high wall and a 2.2 metre high wire fence. And you have to be able to drag a body 7.5 metres. I didn't say what weight body, but anyway, drag the body. So this was introduced, it's been around for a while, 1986. And if you don't pass this, you are withdrawn from the front line and you cannot interact with the public until you've passed the test. Now, there is no retirement age in the police force, so I guess the older ones get put in the back room and get to sort out paperwork and stuff. But it's pretty fit. So no wonder they all look pretty fit, not like some of those ones in your part of the world where they have big bellies coming over
It's
there.
donuts.
Oh, donuts, okay. All right. Greece at the moment, folks, over to Greece in Europe, is holding a snap election. Today, 4 months early, the Prime Minister Tsipras, he just didn't want the distraction of a brutal campaign when they're trying to get their economy back online after some major problems and the bailout. The early results look like the Conservatives are going to take over, so you'll be looking at a new government in Greece. Okay, in central, well, this is just the usual sort of stuff. In central Afghanistan, Ghazni actually, they were having peace talks there until a huge car bomb went off, killing about 12 people and injuring about 150. So,
Just the lovely Taliban
here's the lovely Taliban again. Okay, a bit of sport, don't usually cover too much, but the Women's World Cup soccer has been on. It's been won by the USA over the Netherlands, a really exciting game evidently, and Sweden beat England for the third place. Now cricket, this will be of interest to the Brits and the Kiwis. New Zealand has scraped into the semi-finals, despite the fact that they've lost the last 3 games. Try and explain that to the Americans. But anyway, they are in the semi-finals. They play India tomorrow night, and Australia and England, which will be a stunner, in a few days' time is the other semi-final. Okay, the Pamplona Bull Run is on, and so far 3 have been gored. It's probably par for the course there, isn't it? And Deutsche Bank, just as well you're not all working because they have decided to cut 18,000 jobs. Mostly it will affect those in London and New York. But boy, that's a lot of people in Deutsche Bank. Shows you that the economy is not exactly on a roll at the moment. And going to Iran, the nuclear deal is clearly dead. They have announced that they're making more uranium, but Prime Minister Macron from France is trying to negotiate some sort of deal, but it's not looking too good there. Let's just quickly breeze through the reports that have come in while I've been talking. Niafu, calm, 70%. Feeling nice up there for Whistler and everybody else. Here we are. Port Resolution, way down in Tanner. Goodness, you're still there, David. 100% cloud cover, gusty with intermittent rain. Bar of 1015. Yes, it's good further north, but not so great there. And in fact, Messatroy are reporting 10 knots out of the southeast. They are at the top part of Malakula, Port Stanley. Sent in some good drone pictures yesterday. Everything looks so different when you take pictures from drones. It just doesn't look like it did when we remember it. Anyway, it's 25 degrees up there, so fairly nice. What else have we got here? That's about it, really. Blue Lagoon. Oh, that's where they are. Yes, thank you for that. Blue Lagoon. And that report was 10 to 15 east-southeast, 22 degrees. That's quite cool, isn't it, for the sounds? 1010. So there you have it. Good reports. Thank you very much, everybody. Coming in on streaming, actually. Haven't seen too much else apart from the Fulanga one. And that looked better than expected as well. Okay, that's about it from me. Is there anybody with anything else or any relay before I pass the microphone? No, nothing heard. Boy, Eagles' wings they must be having a very quiet time of it out there. I wonder if their radio's still working. Anyway, it's time to pass the microphone, and I can now tell you, seeing as it's light enough, that we have 100% cloud here, along with the 13 degrees and a bit of southwest breeze. Here's David.
All right, good morning. And yeah, our bitter cold weekend, for sure it was bitter cold. That was caused by these frigid southerlies on the east side of the high that's in the mid-Tasman. So you could just picture this high pulling air from the Antarctic and sending it up our way, and it felt like it for sure. An extreme Southern Ocean depression is whipping to the south. That's a 953 millibar. That's southeast of New Zealand. It's pushing a series of fronts and troughs to the north. Now, on the east side of this depression is our other high, 1031 millibar, 1031. It's sitting out there, quite a ways out there. It's moved to 135 west, and it's pushing a ridge toward Tonga. Fairly interesting attempt there. The ridge of the 1030 high that's in the Tasman collides with the eastern ridge at about 170 west, 170 west. And that is naturally where we find a trough. In fact, two troughs. One is about over Tonga, really, and the other is tickling Vanuatu. We just heard some reports there from Vanuatu, and they for sure are getting effects of this trough. Now, there is a second depression that's developed just to the west of the South Island. It will be more evident tomorrow. By Wednesday, it doesn't exactly fade, but it turns into a trough. And the high weakens at the same time, the western high, and it turns into an elongated ridge over the cruising routes. So we could expect some light air at that point for those of you that are heading north. Now over to Minerva. I was surprised that boats are still there. They love that place. You think you would get tired of lobster? I don't know if I would. Trish would. Yep. Anyway, our trough, the main trough, is just about over the reef. Really. Now it's fairly broad, so the winds are from the northwest on the equator side of this big trough, and they're roughly south on the polar side. And basically light air en route to Tonga if you are underway, but winds are not exactly favorable. In fact, any sailing to either Tongatapu or Fiji are certainly going to be wet thanks to the trough. And if you were heading to Tonga, the air is northerly. It's light, but it's northerly quadrant. Then I would say northeast, give or take, if you're heading to Fiji. Tuesday, however, I think we're going to see southeast winds, southeast breezes, about 15 knots in the mean. Now, higher gusts, of course, and squalls. That trough is still sitting there, but at least the direction is good, southeast, finally. Up in the tropics, there is a disturbance between Tuvalu and Tokelau, and a trough that's been generated extends between Wallis and Samoa, right smack in the middle between the two. It goes on to Niue from there. Our Solomon's trough still persists, and it's extending southeast between Fiji and Vanuatu. It's closer to Vanuatu. Then it hooks up with a quasi-stationary front that is just to the south of Fiji, and that one goes on to Raoul Island here northeast of New Zealand and carries on from there. Cloud is extensive in the southwest Pacific, and that's due to these numerous troughs I'm talking about and rather unstable air that we have throughout the area. All of the island groups this morning on satellite imagery show cloud of some sort. We'll see either overcast conditions, broken conditions, scattered conditions, shower clouds. It's all over the map up in the islands. So we'll go to Tonga as usual first. And one of the troughs is actually giving Nui Tupatapu, or most people call it New Potatoes, a pretty hard time. A heavy rain and strong wind warning is in effect there, bringing a very real potential for flash floods. Now, our main group also sees cloud and scattered showers, and wind's not bad though. We'll call it 10 to 15 average winds around lunch. mostly northeast, but shifting to southerly quadrant later this afternoon. Tuesday, tomorrow, we should see southeast about 10 to 15, but of course, under the rain showers, you could expect higher gusts. And the sea conditions are pretty normal, really, about 2.5 meters coming from the southeast. Actual conditions now at 5 a.m. this morning of a bow reported East 6, scattered to broken, and barometer 10-12. The highs East 10, scattered, barometer also 10-12. And down there in Tongatapu, light and variable, less than 5 knots really, scattered to broken, and barometer 1014. And a rather cool 19C this morning down there in Tongatapu. In fact, most places the evenings have been rather cool. So that keeps the overall average temperatures certainly normal, and maybe even below normal. Over to Fiji now, and as we mentioned, quite a bit of cloud is observed on satellite imagery, and also some of the reports have given us. The main trough being nearby has not moved directly over the group, yet there's still a pretty good chance for scattered or isolated showers today. For those of you that are moving about, the winds probably light to moderate. There is the usual disagreement between the key models in this, but by lunch, well, before I get to that, Lau, this disagreement, and I appreciate everybody is doing this for me now. They're giving the actual conditions and whether or not they're using EC or GFS. Most of you seem to be using either of those two, and you're giving me who's winning for the day, and that's very interesting, and I do appreciate it. Keep it coming. But so you know, we are dealing with orographics when we are in these island groups, so we really shouldn't expect a huge amount from these models because of that. They try to take into account some of the orographics, but they are really not mesoscale models or global models. But still, keep that data coming, and it's useful. I log all of it, and it's just of real interest to see what we could expect from these. They are improving, these models, year by year, and I think I mentioned that GFS has got a new version that is out. Now, back to lunchtime today. For those people that are in the Lao, we've got some movement going on there. You should see some easterlies, give or take, on that direction, about 10 to 15 knots. And we got the report down south where it was easterly. By late today, the winds possibly will shift to the southeast, about 10 to 15, so not very strong. Tomorrow for the Lao, I think we may see a steady 15 knots out of the southeast, and then tending east-southeast a little bit later on Tuesday. And I think I mentioned to one of the yachts that remember that the prevailing winds are southeast, so that anything that's north of that direction is really a gift for you. So if you're moving around, take advantage of it if you can. Anyway, some actuals early this morning. Savu, southeast 10, scattered, barometer 10-12. Nassori, calm, scattered, barometer also 10-12. Nandi was northeast 6, scattered, barometer 10-11. The radar loop shows quite a few showers, numerous showers scattered about the group. So you may get wet this morning wherever you are. They come, they go, and that's the nature of it right now due to the proximity of that trough. Over to Vanuatu, where the trough again lies just to the east of the group. Imagery shows quite a bit of broken scattered due to the trough's proximity. I'll give you some actuals early today. Up in Sola, southeast 5, cloud was broken, barometer 10-12. Santo, south-southeast 8, scattered, barometer 10-13. Fate, east 6, scattered to broken, barometer 10-14. Tana was calm, scattered, barometer 1014. Anisham, west-southwest 8, all over the place there, huh? Scattered and broken, barometer 1016. Winds, I think mostly south-southeast by lunch, 15 to 20. Gusts could get up to 25, and don't forget the wind shadow areas. And by the way, due to the wind direction at the moment nearly in line with the islands, friction is playing a very, very big role in the actual direction that you are going to get inshore on these big islands, whether you're on the east side or the west side. So be aware of the friction effect. And don't be surprised by very unexpected and unusual wind directions because of this. Very common in Vanuatu especially. Nature has put those islands right in line with the prevailing winds, and it makes for very interesting forecasting. A lot of guessing. Open water by lunch tomorrow, generally southeast, I'd say in the 15 knot range. And lastly, over to NewCal on imagery. Well, it's showing broken to scattered cloud. The winds by lunchtime in our southern lagoon, I think we'll be looking at southeast, getting up to 20 knots, but a little bit lighter this afternoon. And tomorrow looks very good. By lunch, I think southeast in the 10 knot range, so not bad. Actuals for you this morning, the outer reef got up to east 22 knots. Ile de Pan, southeast 12. Noumea, south 15, but gusts to 25. And Lifu, in the loyalties, east-southeast, 22 knots. So a bit of wind. And that's it from me. Questions, comments come now. And hello, Chief.
There was somebody there. I'll get some help in a minute. I just wanted to tell David that Kuhila, Josh has just reported in, and he's a couple of degrees ahead of Manawai with the same conditions, south-southwest 15, a few squalls last night. He's been keeping a close eye on the GFS versus ECMWF and has reported that GFS is still more on the mark with the wind speed, so that's interesting. And Gatago is also leaving North Minerva today, so it's going to be a bit of an exodus there. I wonder, haven't heard from Fijian. Anyway, there was somebody there. Please call again. Okay, Shadu, heading to Wallace. The question, Jonathan. Can you do the next few days for Wallace? You've disappeared on me, but I'm assuming that you are wanting the next few days in Wallace. So we'll pass the microphone to have a look at Wallace. And David is just getting there, moving stuff around the old computers. Is there anybody with anything else whilst I am waiting to pass the microphone? Yeah, I'm just not picking it up. It's quite sort of a muffled sound. Just try once more, Jonathan. Oh, it's Fortuna. Fortuna. Okay, Fortuna. And, all right, got it. Here's David. Fortuna.
Fortuna. Tuna and Fortuna. All right, Jonathan, it looks like still light air, 8-10 knots like that. You do have troughing conditions around you, so I think certainly the wind isn't going to be an issue. It's, well, right now in Fortuna, it's about northeast, but it is light, like I said, 8-10 knots like that. This is now projected for tomorrow. Right now, let me look at what it is right now. Right now, well, it's still northeast and 10 to 15, I would say. Looking at Wednesday there, I would say easterlies. Still very light, 8 to 10 knots right in there. And there's areas of cloud about, so what you're going to get, I don't know. It could very well be showers, it could be sunshine, but nothing really evil that I could see, and we'll take it another day. And still light air on Thursday. I would say easterlies again, and maybe southeast, looking like still the 10 knot range, maybe 10 to 15. And of course, in showers, you'll get some gusts, but not too bad at all. Over.
Yep. Okay. Alrighty, that will be good. I'm not sure. I don't think there's anyone else up in Fortuna that we've heard about. Okay, is there anybody else before we head for the coffee machine? Oh, there is somebody there. I wonder if my good relay station can hear you. Did anybody copy that boat that's just called? Because it's not clear enough for me to pick up. Yeah, go ahead, Andrew. Oh, okay. Well, try again. Give it a sort of say Gulf Harbour Radio several times, and we'll see. I definitely heard you, but I just not to pick it up. And then say your boat name a couple of times. Go ahead again. Well, I do copy you, but I haven't worked out the boat name. But that's probably because it might be a new one for me. Who was it, Andrew? Oh, yes, I know who it is. All right. Yeah, well, it's interesting. It's just a bit on the, how would I call it? It's just not sharp.
You're talking too fast.
And yes, you're the typical youngish cruiser. I know who they are. They won't mind if I'm a bit rude. But just talking a little too fast for getting a not great signal through.
Microphone, not a telephone.
Yeah, David said to remind me to tell you that it is a microphone, not a telephone. That's the trouble we have these days. People think they can just sort of talk as if they're going into a telephone, but it is not, Blair. And good morning to Nicky, Alex, and Blake. They are actually from Gulf Harbour, folks, so up there enjoying Tonga, which I'm not sure that it's been great, enjoyable weather for a while, but it must come right soon. So I suspect it's better than it was, but keep working on it. Tintin will have, well, you might have a bit of cloud today. You can get back in and just make sure that, yeah, well, I wonder if it's the microphone. But anyway, there might be a local cruiser expert up there that can be of some assistance. But anyway, good morning to Tintin. All right, that's it from us, folks, and unless there's anything else, we will enjoy our nippy day here and be back again tomorrow. Cheers all, the frequency's yours. No, it still won't.